Shalom, giving all praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rahahakwadash. Double honors to the apostles, the elders at Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations as always to the elect. And I want to get into the topic of Hanukkah, or the feast of Hanukkah, all right, or Hanukkah, all right, which the Hebrew word is dedication, as we can go here to the Hebrew word Chanach, all right, which is the name of Enoch, okay, which, as you can see here, it means to train, to dedicate, all right. It could also be translated to the learned man, which ultimately the learned men, you know, the sons of God, were to be dedicated and trained up in the ways of righteousness. All right. And Enoch was a descendant of Adam through Seth. All right. And he is the one who was beamed up, you know, and translated into the chariot. All right. And as you can read here in the book of Hebrews 11:5, by faith, Enoch was translated. All right. Meaning he was saved from something. Okay, he was, you know, caught up into the heavens in a whirlwind, you know, just as Elijah, okay, which Elijah and Enoch, all right, John the Baptist, Abraham are the same, all right, in spirit, if you can receive it. But Enoch was translated that he should not see death. Okay, so when we deal with Enoch, Chanach, okay, you deal with one who was translated that he shouldn't see death, meaning he was delivered out of a, you know, a crazy situation, see, and was not found, meaning the people around him, whoever was coming after him, they couldn't see him. He was caught up, all right, because God have translated him, for before his translation, he had this testimony that he pleased God. So before he was translated, he had a particular testimony that he pleased God. Now, when you deal with Enoch, real quick, in the book of Genesis, he is a descendant of Adam through Seth. Now, through Cain's lineage, you also had an Enoch, which you'll see here in Genesis, the 4th chapter. But the Enoch, all right, dealing with the sons of God, the sons of righteousness, okay, you can see through Adam's lineage, descendants of Adam, as you can see here through Seth, okay, and through Seth was a son named Enoch, and then began men to call on the name of the Lord. So this lineage was associated with a legacy of priesthood, all right, and being the chosen of the Most High God, okay, through his only begotten Son, which on earth started with Adam in the heavens, okay. Of course, that spirit is you know, Yahweh Shai. Now, as we go down in this chapter, okay, in this lineage, you see Enoch. Okay, he was one of the sons of God, and as you can see here, let's see here. Right here in verse 22, it says, Genesis 5:22, and Enoch walked with the Most High after he begot Methuselah 300 years, and he begot sons and daughters. Now, to walk with the Most High doesn't mean you literally walk with him, all right, but it means the Most High was dealing with him, all right. He was intimate with him. Intimate doesn't mean sex. Intimate means he opened himself up to, you open yourself up to one. The Most High opened himself up to Enoch, just as he's opening himself up to us in this time. Okay, the first man on earth that he opened himself up to was Adam, the breath of life. Now, the word for walk is halak. All right, to walk, to come, okay, to go away, to walk about, to lead, okay, to lead. So it can mean to lead, okay, and then you go into the root word, yalak, okay, to walk, okay, manner of life, okay, and we just read that Enoch had a particular testimony okay, that pleased the Most High, which that led to him being beamed up. So we have what we need to know about Enoch in the Holy Scriptures, all right? And it's beautiful that this particular holy day is associated with the name Enoch, or dedicated, okay? The learned men, the men of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, in sincerity and truth, who are dedicated to the ways of righteousness, okay? So Hanukkah, as you can see here, Hanukkah means what? To train, to dedicate, all right, to inaugurate, all right, and to inaugurate, okay, let's get the word, which they have this on the left-hand side, all right, but this all is associated with the right-hand side. All of these things that the left-hand side take and pollute, all right, there's a right-hand purpose to it, like the stones, the incense. Okay, so it says inaugurate, to begin or to introduce a system, policy, all right, the law, statutes, and commandments, which were oral at this time. Enoch was one of the men during the time where there was rebellion against the Most High, which led even into the time of Noah, which is why the flood came. Okay, these were particular men named amongst the sons of God, because there was many more who descended from Adam through Seth, who stood for righteousness. It says to initiate. See, and we're being initiated as we have awoken to this truth, to begin to start, and this great awakening has begun and instituted the name of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua back in the earth. So we can tie all of these things to what we're going through in this time. So we're being trained up and we're dedicated. As the scriptures say in Sirach, the 36th chapter, let thy prophets be found faithful. Okay, and also here in the book of Sirach, the 44th chapter, in the 16th verse, it says, Enoch pleased the Lord and was translated, meaning he was beamed up into a chariot. What was he beamed up into, Mr. Dalton and all you chariot deniers? Okay, yes, they're all chariots. They're all vehicles of the heavens. I've seen them with my own eyes, but technically I don't need to see them. I believe it. Even if I've never seen one, I believe the report of the Holy Scriptures, because it's clearly in there. There was a chariot that by the Heavenly Father led us through his only begotten Son out of Egypt. Okay, so Enoch pleased the Lord because of his testimony, meaning he stood for something. He preached something. He proclaimed something in a time of rebellion. And you have to understand, the family line of Cain was in the earth. And Enoch, as Jude tells you, okay, was, let's get that real quick. The book of Jude, all right, gives insight on Enoch as well. Okay. This is the book of Jude, verse 14. It says, and Enoch also, the seventh from Adam, prophesied of these, saying, behold, the Lord cometh with thousands of saints. So Enoch is the seventh generation from Adam. So as you read Genesis 4 and 5, the family line of Cain was in the earth at that time. Okay. So Enoch was translated. Okay. And what was he? He was an example of repentance. So what repentance, okay, repentance leads to what happened to Enoch, in which he was translated. He was beamed up. So this holy day, Chanach, all right, or Hanukkah, okay, Hanukkah, okay, stems from a story in the book of First Maccabees, all right, chapters 1 through 4, which we're going to skim through some of it and get into our history, all right, because we have holy days. Holy means what? Separate, set apart, sanctified, okay, above the rest, okay, and importance, all right, just like on the left-hand side, we're seeing they have their holy days or holidays. Holiday means holy day. We have our holy days. See, and the Hanukkah is one of them, in which we'll show you our Lord and Savior Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, all right, was at the feast of dedication, at the feast of Hanukkah, all right. Now, when you go to the book of Leviticus, the 23rd chapter is where you find what? The laws of religious festivals, meaning these particular days are holy. Passover, Feast of Tabernacles, all right, and more are holy days in which put us in remembrance of our power. And it's very, very beautiful that there were 2 holy days added through the Spirit, okay, dealing with Purim, at the time of Haman, which he was an Edomite, okay? He was an Edomite of the line of Agag, which is an Amalekite, which at that time, when you can get the book of Esther, he had a plan to get us, put to death. He wanted an order to be put out so that all of the Jews in the land be put to death, lying, and ultimately it backfired. Well, we're living in that time now where they're getting ready to put out an order through their pseudoscience, through their lies, through their media. They're going to manipulate the minds of the people to believe that we are a threat in a physical sense, and that we should be it should be lawful to cart us off, to destroy us, to separate us from our families, to put us to death, to ultimately cut out the righteous cry in the earth, to cut off the sacrifice, which they've always wanted to do. All right, but the Heavenly Father is going to stop them. Okay, He's going to disappoint the plans and the devices of the wicked, in which they're trying to, through technology, overcome what is. Through their left hand blessing, they think that they're going to be able to overcome the Most High's plan for Jacob, all right, to have dominion over the whole entire planet Earth, under who the world is ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. So we have holy days, all right, and 2 were instituted through the Spirit, the Purim in the book of Esther, and you have Hanukkah in the book of Maccabees, which starts with, as you can see here, Maccabees, first Maccabees, the first chapter says, and it happened that after Alexander, the son of Philip was who? The Macedonian. All right, and how do we tie this to the Edomites? All right, because these Greeks who were ruling here, they're not the original seed of Japhet. Okay, they took the lands of the Japhites and started to call themselves after the names of the lands of Japhet, which they're known to do. All right, right now they're over here in what is known as America. This isn't their land. Okay, but they take lands, and this is what they did to the lands of Japhet, which there's history that goes into that. Okay, now it says, and after, all right, it happened that after Alexander, the son of Philip the Macedonian. Now, when we go into another part of the Apocrypha dealing with the book of Esther, Haman, who we just talked about, which Haman, when you go to the book of Esther, real quick, Haman's plot against the Jews, you read that dealing with the feast of Purim, and it's beautiful to have holy days that put you in remembrance of victory over the enemy. Okay? None of these particular holidays or holy days you're following on the left-hand side link you to your power, but the holy days on the right-hand side do. Christmas, Halloween, Thanksgiving, none of these things link you to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They link you to idols. Okay? And Hanukkah is better than some goddamn Christmas. Okay? It's 8 days of gift giving and partying and lighting the menorah. All right, which we do all of these things to the best of our ability. We're just rehearsing the righteous acts, but the fact that we're even able to speak on it and to bring this information to our people is a miracle within itself, because our people are still stuck on the holy days of the wicked. But we have holy days that link us to our power, and furthermore, like the Passover, it links us to victory over our enemies, in which we are in the hands of our enemies. So we need to tap into that spirit. Okay, the spirit of these holy days links us to victories and a relationship with our power. So Haman had a plot against the Jews, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, okay, who had remained in the land of Jerusalem, okay, which was later called Judea. Now, you read this in Esther 3:1, it says, and after these things, the king Ahasuerus promote Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite. Okay, now the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite. Okay, now you look up Haman. Okay, it says he was the son of an Agagite. Okay, now Haman, magnificent, chief minister of Ahasuerus, enemy of the Mordecai and the Jews. Now, prophetically, we know that the seed of the serpent and the seed of the woman would constantly be at friction. Well, this is another, along with Hanukkah, which we're getting ready to get into, this is another example of that prophecy being fulfilled. The seed of the serpent through Esau, Edom, okay, at war with the seed of the woman, the seed of Jacob. See? And what did he do? He plotted to kill the Jews, all right, but being foiled by Esther, was hanged with his family. And this is what's getting ready to happen unto you devils. Now, this is the Feast of Purim, but Haman was an Agagite. Okay? Haman was an, as we read here, Haman was an Agagite. Now, we just read here that Haman, in the additions to Esther 16 and 10, for Haman, a Macedonian, it says Ammon, but it's speaking of Haman, all right? Haman, for Haman, a Macedonian, the son of Hammedatha, all right? So there you go. It links him to a Macedonian, okay? Haman was what? An Agagite, which, what is an Agagite? Okay, real quick. It's the seed of Esau, Edom. All right. Agagya, I will overtop. And that's the mindset of the Amalekites. They want to overtop. They want to be like the Most High. They want to overtop Jacob. That's what they've always plotted to do, which is why we've always been in friction with them. Okay. You see here it says Amalekite with a question mark. No, Haman was an Agagite, which the Agagites linked to Agag. All right, which we can go to the root word Agag, Agag, I will overtop, king of Amalek, which who is Amalek? So right here we can link Alexander the Greek in the Greek Empire. Okay, that starts the beast system to the Edomites. Amalek is one of the sons of Esau. Okay. It was his grandson. So Amalek is an Edomite, which the Edomites are linked to Macedonia through Haman. Okay, and right here you can see that Alexander was the son of Philip the Macedonian. So Alexander was an Edomite. Okay, which Macedonia is ultimately the land of Japhet. But again, when you go into the history, Philip, okay, and there was a conquering of those lands through the Edomites. Okay, so it happened, going back to get to the story of Hanukkah, it happened that Alexander, the son of Philip the Macedonian, okay, who came out of the land of Chetam, okay, which is the area of Rome, Italy, it says, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece. So they took over this land, all right, and Darius was smitten through the force of Alexander. Now Alexander the Great, okay, is a historical figure. All we have to do is just type him in. Let's go here. Just type in Alexander the Great, okay, which they tell you history started with the Greeks for a reason, because this is the revival of the Greco-Roman Empire, all right, here where we are in America, okay. Now, Alexander the Great, it says, of Macedonia, okay, I mean, when you go into history, he's an accepted figure, right? Nobody denies that. Everybody is of the opinion and agree that Alexander the Great was an actual, factual, historical figure that actually lived and walked the earth. There's no argument to his existence. You see? But when it comes to the argument surrounding the existence of the Messiah, okay, you have nothing but people giving their opinion, and he was fake and he was this and that. But there are more manuscripts of the Old and New Testament than manuscripts of Alexander the Great. As a matter of fact, when you deal with the manuscripts of Alexander the Great, what is a manuscript? Okay, a manuscript, as you can see here, was traditionally any document written by hand. So handwritten documents that can be linked back to the original writers, all right, or what manuscripts are, okay? And we'll go into it, but as you can see here, the manuscripts of Alexander the Great, all right, are only about 123, right? Which are enough to say, okay, well, this was a factual person. He really lived. There's history surrounding him. Okay, they even speak on him today as a great man. They call the Greek Empire, okay, the father of civilization, right? Which there were civilizations before the Greeks. History begins with the Greeks. No, the Edomite power structure begins with the Greeks, according to the Bible. But there's only 123, manuscripts dealing with Alexander the Great. Okay, but when you deal with the Bible, we'll get this real quick. The manuscripts, it says there is more evidence of the Bible's authenticity, all right, authenticity than any other literature or of antiquity. All right, so there is more evidence of the Bible's authenticity, all right, than for any literature of antiquity. It says textual analysis begins with historical investigation, beginning with the latest documents and working backwards. It says as evidence develops, the data is evaluated against other sources. The records is then checked for consistency of information, and the claims are analyzed as if it were a legal case, looking for credible testimony with cross-examination. There is an enormous amount of evidence for authenticity of the biblical manuscripts. The New Testament, and we're just speaking of the New Testament. We're not speaking of the Old Testament, okay, or the First Covenant. You see, it says the New Testament was written in 1st century AD. There are some 25,000 early manuscripts in existence. So Alexander the Great is accepted. Nobody questions his existence, and he only has 183 manuscripts. But then when you deal with the New Testament alone, not mentioning the Old Testament, 25,000 manuscripts are found. It says almost 6,000 of which many being only recognizable fragments. So 6,000 of that is just actual fragments that they have pieces of a writing, but they don't have the rest of it. Okay. It says are Greek texts and others being early transitions of the Greek New Testament. The earliest textual evidence we have was copied not long after the original, in contrast. All right, and you can keep reading. It just gives you the history, but as you can see, we have many. Okay, and if you even count, quotes from the so-called early church fathers, which the early church fathers were Israelites, but eventually Esau got up in there. All right, but they quoted particular prophets. You deal with the councils of Nicaea and the many councils that came, which none of them were surrounding if Yahushua actually existed. They all knew he existed. They all accepted that he existed, but they all were just, questioning his divinity, whether he was the son of God, or how to approach him. That's what those councils were about. But not one of those councils, which is verified history, were they discussing if Yahushua was an actual person or not. They knew he was an actual person. But anyway, I just thought it was interesting that when you go to the book of Maccabees, you have this historical figure, Alexander, mentioned, which everybody accepts him as an actual person. But when it comes to the Bible being accepted, which the Bible is a history book, a book of prophecies, law, statutes, commandments. But when you deal with that, people say it's fake, which those very same people will say, well, Alexander the Great, yeah, that's a known historical, that's one of the fathers of our, white, one of the greats that did great things. You niggers should catch up. Alexander, hell yeah, man. That type of crap. But then when it comes to the Bible, it's fake. Anyway, which the Bible has way more manuscripts to prove that it was it's actual history. Anyway, it says here, dealing in First Maccabees. Now, to give you the background, here in the book of Maccabees is the Greek Empire. All right, this is the beginning of us as Israelites. Amongst other captivities, we always went off, but this is the beginning of us becoming completely uncircumcised, like just completely heathenistic, bowing to the idols of the Greeks through a decree that came down through one of Alexander's generals. So you have Alexander, who pretty much, as you can see in verse 2, it says, made many wars. He's mentioned in the Bible. It's just like you can go to Wikipedia and type in, Alexander the Great. You can go into the Bible and see it speaks on his history. So he won many wars and made many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth. This is what Esau did. All right, and went through the ends of the earth, verse 3 in First Maccabees 1, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. So the pride of his heart was lifted up. There was a point where he killed so many people that he had nobody else to kill, and he just started crying. All right, he said he started crying. He said he wanted his sword to go upon any and every nation who it belonged. And what was Esau blessed with? The sword. And again, the leopard in Daniel, the 7th chapter, is the Greeks. In Revelation 13, it says the beast system started with the leopard, which is the Greeks. And then came who? The Romans. So the very beast system we live in today is an offspring of the Greco-Roman Empire. So Alexander eventually died in verse 5, right? All right. So then he parted his kingdom amongst his servants. Which you have, as you can see here, when he died, verse 8, it says, and his servants bear rule every one in his place, which when you get Daniel, the 7th chapter, Daniel, the 7th chapter, Daniel, the 7th chapter, and the 6th verse, when he speaks of the empires that will rule, before we eventually got the kingdom, the Greeks here in verse 6, and after this I beheld, lo, another like a leopard. That's the Greeks. And Alexander was known to, wear leopard head coverings and attire. Leopards represent swiftness. So the other, like a leopard, which the Greeks had a very swift military. As we just read, Alexander won many strongholds. But as you see here, it says, and behold, lo, another like a leopard, Alexander the Great, which had upon it, the back of it, 4 wings like a fowl. Now, those 4 wings represents these different men who ruled after him. All right, Lysimaeus, Cassander, Ptolemy, and Seleucid. Okay, as we're reading here in the book of Maccabees, okay, those four generals who ruled, as you can see here in verse 9, and after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. They even had wars with each other. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth, showing you that this is the wicked. The Bible lets you know that when the Greeks ruled, okay, after Alexander's death, wickedness spread through the earth. These are the wickedness, the people of the wicked, the Edomites. Evils were multiplied in the earth. And verse 10 says, and there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes. So here you go. This is where the story of Hanukkah starts with this character here, Antiochus, all right, Epiphanes, all right, which you can go into history, okay. All right, Antiochus the fourth, okay. Oh, boy, Antiochus the fourth, okay, was a Greek Hellenistic king who ruled, all right, the Seleucid Empire. He came out of the line of the Seleucids, which was one of the four generals, all right, of Alexander. Okay, and it says notable events during Antiochus's reign was his near conquest of the Ptolemaic Empire and his persecution of the Jews. All right, and the rebellion of the Jew, all right, of the line of the Levites, okay, because Jew can either be the tribe of Judah, but the Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, who were in Babylonian captivity, were just simply called Jews. So you have the rebellion of Judas Maccabees, a Jew, the true Jew, the Israelites, rebelled against the Greeks, which led to this holiday, this holy day we have called Hanukkah. You see? And it's dealing with the Greeks, and we can go into the history and find it. All right, or we can go into the actual text, the Bible, which is a history book, and we can read it there. We can go to the text. All right, one of the surviving manuscripts. All right, so out of Alexander's, the men who ruled after him, came a wicked root out of the Seleucid Empire by the name of Antiochus, surname Epiphanes, Antiochus the fourth. Now, in those days, a lot of our people, bowed to this agenda, because what Antiochus did was he Hellenized the Jews. He pushed Greco, wicked idol worship culture upon our people, even having them to brand themselves. When you go into the history, comes from this culture. Okay, our people, the gymnos, which means naked, is where you get today's gym. All right, as you see here in verse 11, it says, in those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us, for since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. That was your Shaquille O'Neal of the days. That was your Kareem Abdul-Jabbar of the day, the Al Sharpton of the day. Okay, the sellouts of that day. Look, we need to make a covenant with them. So this device pleased them well, and then certain people were so forward therein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen, and they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen. So they built a place of exercise, which the Greeks, when you go into the word gymnos, it means naked. Okay, let's just type in gymnos. Okay, which is where you get your modern day gym. Okay. Gymnos definition. Gymnosperm. No, gymnos. What the hell? There you go, the skin. All right, as you can see here, gymnos is a combining form used like meaning naked, bare, exposed. So the Greeks built a gym, a place of exercise, which we have today, showing you we're in the Greco-Roman Empire. Rome is the power structure, the powerhouse, but there's still remnants of Greek culture here too. This is the beast system we live in today, goes back to the idols of the Greco-Roman Empire, in particular Rome. Now, they built a gym at Jerusalem, all right, and start doing that wickedness in Jerusalem where the temple was at. Okay, they did all kind of wickedness, and they made themselves uncircumcised and forsook the holy covenant and joined themselves to the heathen and were sold to do mischief. All right, so at this time you had many Israelites, okay, who were doing wickedness, who were doing evil. Okay, and there was a point where Antiochus sent men who came with peaceable words, but then what did they do? All right, let's see here. So Antiochus pretty much was ruling at this time. So there was a point in verse 20, it says, and after Antiochus had smitten Egypt, he returned again in the 430th year and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude. He came with his armies. Okay, this is the Israelites in the Greek captivity. Again, when you go to Daniel, the 7th chapter, as we read earlier, and you read about these particular empires, that were ruled in Daniel, the 7th chapter, okay, if you don't have the Apocrypha, which we're reading out of right now, you don't have the history of what happened here in this particular beast, the Greek Empire, which you wouldn't understand why what was happening in the fourth beast, all right, the Roman Empire, was happening. Why was Israel being called circumcised? You have to have this history, which is the history we're going into. As we can see here, what does it say? You read about the circumcision and the uncircumcision in the New Testament. Well, what did Israelites do at this time? Okay, they made themselves uncircumcised and forsook the holy covenant, verse 15, and joined themselves to the heathen. They became uncircumcised, showing you those Israelites in the New Testament, okay, were just uncircumcised Israelites. They forsook the holy covenant and raised their children up, and their children raised their children up, and their children raised their children up. By the time you get to Paul in the New Testament, okay, you had Israelites who were living, all right, in a totally a Gentile state of mind, following idols in a totally uncircumcised state. Okay, so at this time is what led to that. All right, Antiochus Hellenizing the Jews, forcing them. Okay, as you can see here, this was the order in verse 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his law. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king, because he Hellenized many nations. But the Bible, as you can see here in verse 43, yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed to idols and profaned the Sabbath. See? So the Bible is following the chosen seed, the Israelites, who consented and were Hellenized. All right, which when you go into the New Testament and you look up the word Greek, all right, it deals with Hellen or Hellenized. All right, you have the Grecians, which were ultimately Israelites who stuck to the traditions and were raised in the customs, but they spoke Greek. But then you had the Hellenized Jews, which are offspring of these Israelites who consented to the religion of the Greeks. This is your Gentile. This is your heathen in the New Testament. Starts here. So what did he say? That all of the people should throw off their ways and follow after his religion. Okay? For the king has sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah that they should follow the strange laws of the land and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice. See, they wanted to cut off the sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple. And they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days. See, that's what they want us to do here in America. This is a form of Hellenization, as well as we were on those slave ships. And when those devils came over here and conquered the northern kingdom, what did? They beat their language out of them. They wouldn't let them even utter a holy or ancient saying. All right. And they assimilated them into Edomite culture. All right. Which they were able to have their way. See, but this is what happened back here in the Greek Empire, which what we're reading is leading into the story of why we have the holy day Hanukkah. This dude set up idols. He sacrificed swine's flesh on the holy altar. You see that? And these people are infatuated with swine, all right? Which is why the first McRib commercial, you can look it up, is a Jake, all right? An Israelite man biting the damn McRib and saying, and putting up the 666 sign completely through. Okay? That's what they did. They went up into our temple, the Holy of Holies, and offered swine's flesh. This is what you devils did. All right? It says, and that they should also leave their children uncircumcised. They wanted us to leave our customs. All right? Because they knew when we were in line with the Lord, okay, he dealt with us. It says, and make their souls abominable with all manner of cleanliness and profanation. And this is what Edomite culture does to you Israelites. It pollutes you to the end that they might forget the law and change all the ordinances, which we can tie what's happening unto us now and what has happened unto us now in this time unto what was going on amongst what led to Hanukkah. Okay? And then he made an order that we would have to sacrifice unto their sacrifices. It was a commandment. Okay? So many of the people were scared. Many of Jake bowed the knee. Many forsook the law and committed evils, as you can see in verse 52. Now, verse 53 says, and drove Israelites into secret places, even wheresoever they flee, they could flee for succor, for comfort, for the hell. Says now in the 15th month of the month of Casalu, okay, which is where we are now, Hanukkah. All right, it started here in the 100 leading into Hanukkah. At this time, it wasn't considered Hanukkah yet, but on the 15th day of the month of Casalu, that's where Hanukkah is. That's where we're in. It begins on this day in the 140th and 5th year, and you'll see once we get to the end why I'm saying this. They set up an abomination of desolation upon the altar and builded idol altars throughout the cities of Judea on every side. So they took over the temple and just totally, this is this temple Solomon built through the instruction of David. Here they are putting their idols in there and doing wickedness, man. Okay? And what did they do? They burnt incense. So they're in our temple, the Greeks burning incense, offering swine's flesh, putting idols. They got people in the gym working out on the treadmill of that day, balls and titties bouncing everywhere, going off, just evil, right? It says, and when they rent in pieces the books of the laws which they found, they burnt them with fire. So it was illegal to have a Torah in that day. See, it was illegal to profess yourself to even be a Jew. You see? As a matter of fact, that's in the scriptures. Which ain't that the issue right now? They couldn't profess themselves to be Jews at this time. Goodness gracious. Hold on. Right. 2 Maccabees 6:6. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient fasts, or to profess himself at all to be a Jew. Ain't that what they telling you now? Nigga, who are you to say you a Jew? You can't say you a Jew. You can't say you the chosen people of the Lord. Nigga, call yourself a nigga. Go pull a gun on your brother and rap about it. And do it to his wife. Do it. Go do it to his girlfriend. That's what they want to see you niggas doing. Doing it to each other's wives. And being complete heathen. They love you in that sense. But when you are tied to your power and keeping his ways, they're scared. That's why they're going to come after us. So they were tearing in pieces the Bible. It was illegal to have a Bible, which we're coming in those times now. And whosoever was found with any book of the testament, or if he committed to the law, I ain't eating swine. It was the king's commandment that they should put him to death. So at this time, if you said you're going to keep the laws of the Lord or profess yourself to be a Jew, you are going to be put to death. It was a commandment. It was a law, which they're getting ready to do that soon. They just got to put the needed propaganda in place and the false camps that they're going to set up to do evil, and then they'll have their case. They did this by their authority unto the Israelites every month, to as many as were found in the city. So if they found any Israelite keeping the laws, okay, it was an order to put them to death. Okay. It says, so at this time, all of this evil was going on. Okay, that it was a commandment that you couldn't circumcise your child. They were putting to death women that did have their children circumcised. So you had women who were even sticking to the customs and traditions and died for that. And some of those women are back today. Okay, it says, and they hang the infants about their neck and rifle their houses. So they were hanging our babies, our children from their neck. Imagine that. Because you're professing yourself to be an Israelite, you see, through Antiochus' push, because when Alexander was on the scene, he didn't mess with us like that. We were able to still keep our customs. It wasn't until Antiochus came. But they hung our babies by the necks. Didn't they hang us by the necks here in America? And rifled their houses and slew them that had circumcised them. If you circumcise your children, you're dead. Okay? But here's the point that leads into Maccabees, verse 62. Howbeit many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves to not eat any unclean thing. I ain't eating that shit. Wherefore the rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant. So then they died, and there was a great wrath upon Israel. So there was hell upon Israel. So when you get into the second chapter, which we're going to skim through this history, read these chapters on your own. First Maccabees 1, 2, 3, and 4 to get the story of Hanukkah, or Hanukkah, all right, Hanukkah, all right, of these people who stuck to the traditions while many Israelites were going off, which, you know, we're that remnant now, all right? We're sticking to the traditions while our people are eating swine and, you know, bowing themselves to the heathens' commandments and, you know, eating swine and doing all of this lewdness, okay? You have, in those days arose Mattathias, all right, the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest. So this was a line of Levites, of the sons of Jorib from Jerusalem that dwelt in Modin. And he had 5 sons, all right, and he names his sons. And one of them is Judas, another is Eleazar, which he'll eventually come up when you keep reading, all right? And they saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah. So they saw Jake going off and said, woe is me, wherein was I born to see this misery of my people in the holy city, and to dwell there when it was delivered into the hands of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of the stranger. They were sad. Okay, our infants are getting put to death. Our young men with the sword, vessels carried away into captivity. Same thing. We can link ourselves to this. This is how we know these are those people. It says, what nation have not had a part in her kingdom and have gotten of her spoils? Only 40 years of peace, and then we don't know how long Adam ruled. All right, we have very short rulerships, compared to the heathen. We were just through. The temple was just through. The Gentiles profaned the temple. Okay? It says, and as you keep reading, all right, this was Mattathias' order. And he spake with a loud voice. This is Judas Maccabees' father. Okay. It says, though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him and fall away from every one of their religion of their fathers and give consent to his commandments. So all the heathen fell away from their religion to come up under this one world order, one world government, right? Even back then. Okay, and many of the Israelites did it too. It says, yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. So we fit to stick to the script. God forbid that we should forsake the laws and the ordinances. All right. For he will not hearken to the king's word to go from our religion, which your religion is what you do, what you religiously do, your form of worship. All right. Which we have law, statutes, and commandments, either on the right hand or on the left. He's sticking to the precepts. That's a precept in the book of Psalms. Don't turn from to the right or to the left. Keep straight. Okay. So this was a history of our forefathers, a remnant of them sticking to the script, and many others will join with them as well, and not following after the commandment of the king to eat swine, to not circumcise our children. No, there was a remnant who said, hell no, we're going to stick to what's right. Okay. Now, as you read here, verse 23, it says, now when the king had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice on the altars, which was at Modin, according to the king's commandment. Remember, the king commanded that every month they would have to make an offer, all right, in the temple to using swine unto their idols. So the Mattathias, the father of Judas, saw this, which thing when Mattathias saw, he was inflamed with zeal. Okay, so this is likened to when we see our people, okay, a big grown man with pumps on, or a purse on, or a bull dagger, or an alphabet person, or our people just in a complete through state. We get inflamed with zeal because they're offering up an offering unto another god through their behavior. It says, and his reins trembled, neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgment. He went crazy. The Lord, his zeal overcame him. Wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar. So he put his ass to death. He saw this wickedness going on in Jerusalem. He was like, hell no. He put his ass to death. Okay. Also the king's commissioner who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed at the time, and an altar he pulled down. So all these sellouts, okay, Mattathias had their asses put to death. Okay. And this is why at the time of Yahushua, there was a mindset of the circumcision to not accept those of the uncircumcision, because they looked at them as sellouts. Okay, that's why in Ephesians 2 it says you were called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision. The circumcision were those who remained zealous after the law, even up until the time of Yahushua, which is where you get the scribes, the Pharisees, the Essenes, the Sadducees, okay, the Zealots, the Sicarii. All of these various different groups stem from these group of Israelites, which were of the kingdom of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, or kingdom of Judah, rather, which was Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. They stuck to the traditions. See? So this is very important to you understand in the New Testament. This is why they looked down so much on Jake who fell away. They were like, hell nah, y'all part of y'all wicked. Y'all bowing to these idols. Hell nah. Y'all niggas wicked. All right. It says, so his Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, whosoever is zealous after the law and maintaining the covenant, follow me. So he was basically like, look, follow me. And many, it says, so he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that they had in the city. They didn't look back. They left. And many sought after justice and judgment. Many that sought after justice and judgment, many that sighed and cried for all of the abominations, went down into the wilderness to dwell there with him. Both they and their children and their wives and their cattle, because of afflictions, increased sore upon them. So they fled. They were like, we ain't following after fuck this. We ain't doing it. We ain't taking the jab. We ain't taking the charagma. Yeah, we gonna lean on the Lord. We'll see where the Lord takes us, because I can't live under this nigga. Hell nah. I refuse to bow. And the Lord said he have reserved 7,000, which is the 144,000, and after them the large multitude that have not bowed the knee to the image of Baal. But it starts with the teachers, the servants, the prophets, who push that mindset to our people not to bow. Okay? So as you keep reading this story, you can keep reading it again. Okay? Let's see here. The Greeks came after them. Okay? The Greeks, remember, it's the Greeks, the Seleucid Empire in particular. Okay, Antiochus, okay, were coming after them. And many of the Israelites, since it was the Sabbath day, they didn't fight back. So many of them, thousands of them died. All right, okay. Now, when Mattathias and his friends understood hereof, they mourned for them right and sore. And one of them said to another, if we do as our brethren have done, and fight not for our lives and the laws against the heathen, they will now quickly root us out of the earth. Okay, so they had to make a decision in the spirit. Of course, we know in the law, you're supposed to rest. But they were like, look, if we just rest, they're just going to attack us on the Sabbath day and we all going to die. They're going to keep attacking us on the Sabbath day knowing we ain't going to fight back until we die. So they had to what? Make a spiritual decision. And at that time, therefore, they decree, saying, whosoever shall come to battle with us on the Sabbath day, we will fight against him. Neither will we die as our brethren that were murdered in the secret places. So they're like, look, we're going to fight back. Then there came unto him a company of Assyrians, who were mighty men of Israel, even such as were voluntarily devoted unto the law. So you had other Israelites coming in, man, fuck, y'all see this shit, man? Fuck that, man. Priest Pashai, Elder Barak, all right, and other, Apostle Rakal, they can, hey, man, what the, look, we down with y'all. We see, we want to be with y'all. Fuck the, we ain't, And they that fled persecution joined themselves unto them, all right, and this is like unto the remnant, all right, saying we're not bowing to Esau's idols. F that. So they joined their first forces and smote sinful men in their anger and wicked men in their wrath, but the rest fled to the heathen for succor. So some niggas got scared and ran. Like, man, y'all crazy. You could just see Jake. Y'all crazy, man. Y'all killing the way. You ain't got to kill them. These are brothers, man. Y'all niggas crazy. Y'all gonna get us in trouble. I'm going to tell. So they ran. Some niggas ran back to the Greeks because Jake was putting the Maccabees were putting Jake that were going off to death. Again, this is why you had that mindset towards the uncircumcision in the New Testament, that they couldn't be allowed back into the fold. But see, Yahushua came on the scene, so it was a different ball game at that time. And you had certain of the circumcision, okay, who were raised in the customs, that understood that these heathen can be brought back in. These Israelite who are in a heathen state of mind can be brought back in. But that's at the time of Yahushua, through Yahushua. Okay? So that's where you get that mindset of the circumcision being at odds with the uncircumcision. Those who stuck to the traditions, they felt privileged. They were like, look, we fought for our laws. You niggas gave up. Okay? Especially if you were of the northern kingdom. The kingdom of Judah looked at you like a complete heathen, because you remember, you go back into the history, the northern kingdom kings, none of them did right, but maybe one did kind of right, but he was still wicked. But of the kings of Judah, 7 of them, of the 19, I believe it was 19 that sat on the throne, 7 of them did good, with Josiah being the last. Okay? So Judah looked at the northern kingdom as complete heathen, and they looked at these these Jews who fell into the way of the Greeks as complete heathen. So that was that. This is a kind of like a giving you a insight of why in the New Testament you saw this friction with the uncircumcision being brought back in. They were like, hell no, y'all niggas got to keep the laws. Anyway, going back to the story. So there you go. So these Israelites fought. They joined forces under Mattathias, the father of Judas Maccabees and Eleazar and other men. He had other sons, and it gives you their names. But they put to death, as you see here, verse 46, verse 45. Then Mattathias and his friends went round about and pulled down the altars, these particular groves that Jake, all right, you could just see him going to college, Greek fraternity sites, tearing down the Greek. They're just looking at it in our terms, tearing down Jake and these heathenistic, Olympics, tearing down these idols. Like, nigga, hey, you going off. And what children soever they found within the coast of Israel uncircumcised, they circumcised valiantly. So they was like, nah, we circumcising the children, we sticking to the customs. Y'all niggas tripping. They pursued also after proud men who prospered in their hand. So the sellouts, Judas Maccabees, was like, hell nah. Judas Maccabees was in the spirit of King David. All right. He pursued after proud men and recovered the law, just like David recovered the Ark of the Covenant from the Philistines, recovered the law out of the hand of the Gentiles and out of the hand of the kings, neither suffered they the sinner to triumph. So they was laying down the law. This remnant under Mattathias and Judas stuck to the laws. Okay? So if you keep going, it says, now when the time drew near that Mattathias should die, he said unto his sons, now have pride and rebuke gotten strength in the time of destruction and the wrath of indignation. All right? Now, therefore, my sons, be ye zealous of the law and give your lives for the covenant of your fathers. Call to remembrance the acts of your fathers, and so shall you receive great honor and an everlasting name. Then he goes into the history. Was not Abraham found faithful in temptation? Joseph, in the time of his distress in Egypt, didn't become overcome with emotion, but kept the commandment and stayed faithful and kept his integrity. Phineas was zealous and fervent, obtained the covenant of an everlasting priesthood. Okay, Joshua, for fulfilling the word that was made judge in Israel. And as you can see, Joshua is synonymous with Jesus because it's the same name, Yahushai. Okay, that was the name given unto our Lord and Savior. Caleb, for bearing witness before the congregation, received the heritage of the land. David, for being merciful, possessed the throne of an everlasting kingdom. All right. Elijah, for being zealous and fervent for the law, was taken up into heaven, just like Enoch. Okay? Because they're the same person. Enoch is Elijah, is John the Baptist. Okay? And through repentance, we're granted to be taken up, through being dedicated. Hanukkah, we're promised to be caught up into the cloud, man. Now he just keeps going, man. Okay, I'm gonna read this part, verse 62. And when it says, fear not then, verse 61, it says, thus consider ye throughout all ages that none that put their trust in him shall be overcome. Fear not then the words of a sinful man, for his glory shall be dung and worms. All right. For today he shall be lifted up, and tomorrow he shall not be found. The Edomites, because he is returned to his dust, and his thought is come to nothing. Okay. And the scriptures talks about how the memorial, their memorial is going to perish. I believe that's in the book of Job. Okay, hold up. Let's go to the book of Job real quick, because it links to that very same thing. Yeah, he's going to perish like his own dung. Job 18 and 17, his remembrance shall perish from the earth, and he shall have no name in the streets. he shall perish like his own dung. So Judas Maccabees is tapping into the forefathers. He's tapping into the ancestors, just like we do. Okay? Just like we do. Okay? Going back. Let's see here. It says, and thus consider ye throughout all ages that none that put their trust in him shall be overcome. Fear not then the words of a sinful man, for his glory shall be dung and worms. Today he is lifted up, tomorrow he shall not be found. So there you go. Be valiant for the law. Okay? And that right here in verse 66, he says, as for Judas Maccabeus, he have been mighty and strong even from his youth up. Let him be your captain. So he appointed Judas. He set things in order. He appointed Judas as the head. Then he died. Okay? So when you go to, First Maccabees 3, okay, the heathen continued to pursue us. Okay? And as you read, so just read a little bit of this, First Maccabees 3, and then we'll skim through 4, and then we'll end it. But it says, then his son Judas, called Maccabeus, rose up in his stead, and all his brethren helped him, and so did all they, all right, that held with his father, and they that fought with cheerfulness for the battle of Israel. This is the remnant of that time. Okay, and they fought physical wars, but we're fighting a spiritual war in this time. Through Yahweh Shai, we get the true victory, because victory ain't going to come through the sword. And eventually the Maccabees lost, but this holiday or holy day, all right, is tied to this particular history we're going into. So it says, so he got his people great honor and put on the breastplate as a giant and girded his warlike harness about him, and he made battles, protecting the host with his sword. Okay, so the Lord blessed him. In his acts he was like a lion, all right, and like a lion's whelp roaring for his prey. He pursued the wicked and sought them out and burnt up those that vexed his people. So this Judas was going through committing judgment against you Edomites, burning you alive. And this again goes back to the promise that there will be friction between the seed of the serpent and the seed of the woman. All right, this is the friction that was going on in Rebekah's womb between Esau and Jacob when you get Genesis 25. It's being played out right here. Wars between the Jews and the Greeks, which were Edomites at this time. It says, wherefore the wicked shrunk for fear of him. Okay, and they're shrinking for fear of us through what we're doing in spirit now. And all the workers of iniquity were troubled because salvation prospered in his hand. All right, he was like in like the tabernacle of David, like they were winning, which is getting ready to is happening now too. He grieved also many kings and made Jacob glad with his acts, and his memorial is blessed forever. He made Jacob glad with his acts. It's interesting. It says, moreover, he went through the cities of Judah, destroying the ungodly out of them and turning away wrath from Israel. So again, you see that he was destroying sellouts. So there was an evil eye towards those who were of the uncircumcision, those who fell to the idols of the Greeks. All right. He was like, nigga, you got to die. All right. So as you keep reading, all right. Let's see here. As you keep reading. Let's see here. The heathen started to come up against them because remember, Judas is rebelling against the Greeks. All right. Now, as you read here, after they won a little skirmish, verse 25, then began the fear of Judas and his brethren and an exceeding great dread to fall upon the nations round about them, insomuch as his fame came unto the king, and all the nations talked about the battles of Judas. Everybody was like, this dude here, we got to stop this cat. Okay. And now when Antiochus heard these things, he was full of indignation. Wherefore he sent and gathered together all forces of his realm, even a very strong army. He opened also his treasure and gave his soldiers pay for a year, commanding them to be ready whensoever he should need them, showing you he was stressed out. When you make a decision like that, look, y'all can't leave for a year. You know, you worried. You were wearied in your counsels. You like, shit. Y'all can't go back home. Look, I'll give you a year's pay right now. Just stay. Just fight, you know. Nevertheless, when he saw that the money of his treasuries failed, so he started to lose money. He was getting, hey, the righteousness, keeping the laws really puts a dent in Esau's plan. He starts to lose. It says, and the tributes in the country were small because of the dissension and plague which he had brought upon the land, and taken away the laws which had been of old time. So the land wasn't prospering. Okay. It was a plague. Things weren't going right. He's like, oh shit. He feared that he should not be able to bear the charges any longer, nor to have such gifts to give liberally as he did before. So he had abounded, all right, above the kings that were before him. Wherefore he being greatly perplexed in his mind, okay, he was through, determined to go into Persia and to take tributaries of other countries to gather much money. And you can go into history and find all of this. This is what he did. Okay? So he went and got other people. Look, all right, I need a loan, nigga. What's up? All right? Get help. Okay? So as you keep going, and what did he do this for? He got forces from these heathen, and it said, the other heathen, it said, to wit, that he should send an army against them to destroy the root out of the strength of Israel and the remnant of Jerusalem. So Judas Maccabees and what they were doing is likened to what we're doing in spirit. See, we're not fighting with the physical sword. And the remnant of Jerusalem to take away their memorial. So it's like, we got to get these niggas. We got to destroy these niggas. Now, as you keep reading, so he took all of his forces and went after him, basically. All right. Let's see here. You had many people joining themselves into the heat to Antiochus. And they were on their way to the land of Judah to destroy it. Okay, and let's see here. And the merchants of the country, hearing the fame of them, took silver and gold very much, and servants, and came up to the camp to buy the children of Israel for slaves. A power of Syria and of the land of the Philistines joined themselves into them. So they was trying to get Jake to fight with them. They were doing all kind of shit. Now when Judas and his brethren saw that the miseries were multiplied, and that the forces did encamp themselves in their borders, where they knew how the king had given commandment to destroy the people and utterly abolish them, they said to one another, let us restore the decayed fortune of our people, and let us fight for our people in the sanctuary. Then was the congregation gathered together, and they that might be ready for battle, and they that might pray and ask for mercy and compassion. So they were all like, we got to get out of here. Like, you know, that shows you even your prayers are helping the tabernacle of David, calling on Yahweh Bashim Yashah for mercy. But you have those who are on the front line as well. Okay. Now, as you keep reading, now Jerusalem was laid void as a wilderness. All right. There was none of her children that went in or out. The sanctuary was trodden down. The aliens kept the stronghold, and the heathen had their habitation in the place. And joy was taken away from Jacob, and the pipe of the harp ceased. Remember, this is the Israelites in that third beast, the Greek Empire. Wherefore the Israelites assembled themselves together and came to Mashpah over against Jerusalem. All right. And they prayed and they fasted. Okay. And put on sackcloth. And they laid open the book of the law. And they saw that Esau put his images, wherein the heathen sought to paint the likeness of their image. They're like, what the hell? They went back to Jerusalem and they're like, God damn. They brought also priests' garments of the first fruits and tithes and so forth. So they were just getting in the spirit. Let's see here. And lo, the heathen were assembled to come after us and destroy them. You see? How shall we be able to stand against them, verse 53, except thou, O God, be our help? And that's the same way we feel. Then they sounded the trumpets and cried with a loud voice. And after this, Judas obtained captains over the people, ordained captains over the people. He was setting up order in the spirit, even captains over thousands, hundreds, and over fifties. All right. So they're getting ready to go to war. All right. So here's the conclusion of the book, or of the history of what led to Hanukkah, which is a holy day, right? Then took Gorgias, all right, and you can just look up Gorgias. Just type in Gorgias in Greek, and who go come up? Yeah, he's an actual historical figure. Okay, there was a few of them. All right, but you can look him up and find his history. They even have pictures of him. Okay, he was a Greek sophist, yada yada yada, and all of those philosophies are what they follow today. Anyway, then took Gorgias, 5,000 footmen. So basically, war is getting ready to happen now. When Judas, all right, and what was the point? That they, right, verse 2 to the end, that they might rush upon the camp of the Jews and smite them suddenly, and the men of the fortress with his guys. So they were coming after Jake. They were getting ready to come after those who stood so stiffly for the word of the Lord. Now, when Judas heard thereof himself, he removed, and the valiant man with him, that he might smite the king's army, which was at Emmaus, while yet the forces were dispersed from the camp. As you keep going, in the mean of the season came Gorgias by night into the camp of Judas, and he found no man there, because Judas was a high-level war tactic. He knew how to deal with war tactics. So he sought them in the mountains, for he said, these fellows flee from us. Where'd they go? But as soon as it was day, Judas showed himself in the plain with 3,000 men, who nevertheless had neither armor nor swords in their minds. And when you go back to the story of David and Goliath, all right, if you notice in that story, David, when he beat Goliath, he didn't have no swords. Let's see what it said. Let's just type in here. Yeah. At the end of this chapter. Let's see here. Let's see here. Yep. 1 Samuel 17:50. So David prevailed over the Philistines with a sling and a stone. It smote the Philistines and slew him, but there was no sword in the hand of David. You see that? There was no sword. All right. He trusted in this stone, that rock, which is Yahushua ultimately at the end of the day. He didn't have a sword in his hand. He defeated him with a rock. But right here, okay, the Judas showed himself to the heathen, and he didn't have no sword or nothing. And they was like, what the hell? And they saw the camp of the heathen, and it was strong and well harnessed and compassed round about with horsemen, and these were expert of war. Then said Judas to the men that were with him, fear ye not their multitude, neither be ye afraid of their assault. Remember how our fathers were delivered in the Red Sea by that angel. See? And that's the same thing we're telling you. But then you got detour signs popping up, okay, telling you, yeah, nah, we got to go to Africa. The Lord can't save us, man. Shit. Okay? Looking all over the place. What the hell wrong with y'all? We in the spirit of Judas in the spirit, all right, in the sense All right. But we're not taking up the sword. This is just history. Remember how our fathers were delivered in the Red Sea when Pharaoh pursued them with an army? Now, therefore, let us cry unto heaven, if peradventure the Lord will have mercy upon us, and remember the covenant of our fathers, and destroy this host before our face this day. All right. And that so all the heathen may know that there is one who delivereth, and that saveth Israel. See that? Then the strangers lifted up their eyes and saw them coming over against them. Wherefore, when they went out to battle, to the camp to battle, but they that were with Judas just sounded their trumpets. They just sounded the trumpets. They ain't had no swords. They just sounded the trumpets. Ain't that what we're doing? Blowing the trumpet, man. So they join, and there's particular trumpets that are telling you prepare for battle. So they joined battle, and the heathen, being discomfited, fled into the plain. They couldn't deal with Jake. Jake was on point. Howbeit, all the hindmost of them were slain with the sword, for they pursued them into Gezerah and into the plains of Idumea. They ran back to their lands. All right. And they were slain upon 3,000 men. Judas and them slain 3,000 men. And this done, Judas returned again with his hosts from pursuing them, and said, the people, be not greedy of the spoil, inasmuch as there is a battle before us. Don't get so, gung ho about getting these spoils. Look, we still at war. Jake, oh man, look at this, look at that. Oh man, wow, it's a stone. Shit, man, we can use this. And Gorgias and his hosts are here by us in the mountain, but stand ye now against our enemies and overcome them. And after this, ye may boldly take the spoils. So we got to win this war, then we take the spoils. And as Judas was yet speaking these words, there appeared in part of them looking out of the mountain, who, when they were perceived that the Jews had put their host to flight and were burning the tents, for the smoke that was seen declared that what was done. All right. So they saw like this, the Judas is crazy. These dudes can, man. When therefore they perceived these things, they were sore afraid, and seeing also the hosts of Judas in the plain, ready to fight, they're like, these dudes are crazy. They fled everyone into the land of strangers. They was like, hell no, we gonna leave these niggas alone right now. Let's recoup. Let's get another plan. Then Judas returned the spoils to the tent. All right, and there was much gold and silver and blue silk, and purple of the sea, and great riches. They went into them tents of those Greeks and got all of their stuff. After this, they went home and sung a song of thanksgiving and praised the Lord of heaven, because it is good, because of his mercy endure forever. Thus Israel had great deliverance in that day. All right, so the Israelites had a great deliverance. So what they did eventually is rededicated the temple. All right, as you can jump here to verse 38, So they got everything in order. Okay. Let's see here. Man, let's read this, what they said in verse 30. It says, and when he saw, all right, that the mighty army, he prayed. When he saw the mighty army, he prayed and said, blessed art thou, O Savior of Yasharallah, Israel, who didst quell the violence of the mighty man by the hand of thy servant David, and gavest the host of strangers into the hands of Jonathan, the son of Saul, and his, all right, armor bearer. So they liken what just happened with Judas unto what happened with David and his army. Shut up this army in the hand of thy people Israel, and let them be confounded in their power and horsemen. Make them to be of no courage, cause the boldness of their strength to fall away. And this is what's happening to Esau. We're praying to the Lord for the victory now. Okay? Cast them down with the sword of them that love thee, and let all those that know thy name praise thee with thanksgiving. So they joined battle, and there was slain of the host of Lysaeus about 5,000 men. Now, when Lysias saw his army put to flight, and the manliness of Judas' soldiers standing so stiffly for the name of the Lord, and how they were ready to either live or die valiantly, he went to Antiochia, all right, or Antioch, and gathered together a company. And it's funny, we were first called Christians in that very land, at the time of, Paul and them. It says, and gathered together a company of strangers, and having made an army greater than it was, he proposed to come again to Judea. Then said Judas and his brethren, behold, our enemies are discomfited. Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary. So, the heathen are like, all right, we got to regroup. So it was like, let's go up to Mount Zion. Let's go to Jerusalem. And when they saw the sanctuary desolate and the altar profane and the gates burned up and the shrubs growing out of the courts, all right, and the priest chambers pulled down, they rent their clothes and made great lamentation. They were sad. Okay, remember, this is the circumcision. And this is where, again, eventually, through the Hasmonean dynasty, you get your scribes, Pharisees, Essenes, Sadducees, all right, and those who were around in Jerusalem at the time Yahushua was born. Okay? And he gathered his, core flock from amongst those who were raised in these customs, all right, but a lot of them rejected him. All right, now as you keep going, it says, and they fell down flat on their faces and blew an alarm and cried towards heaven. Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress until he had cleansed the sanctuary. And so he chose priests blameless of blameless conversation, with no gall in their mouth, which had pleasure in the law, who cleansed the sanctuary and bare out the defiled stones into an unclean place, because there were stones in there. It was like, what do we do with them? And they consulted what to do with the stones and the offerings and the altar. All right. And they thought best to pull it down, lest it should be a reproach. All right. Because the heathen defiled it, wherewith they pulled it down, and laid upon it the stones of the mountain of the temple in a convenient place, until there should come a prophet who should show them what to do with them. All right. Then they took whole stones according to the law and built a new altar. It's a part of our culture. All right. Going back to Adam, Abel had a righteous sacrifice, right? Noah offered up a sacrifice. Abram did when he was returned to his culture. It says, according to the former. So that's what we're doing. Lively stones. All right. Built up on a spiritual house, it says, and they made up the sanctuary and the things that were within the temple, and hollowed the courts, and made new holy vessels. So they rededicated the temple. They burned incense. Okay. They lighted the candlestick, which there was the menorah, which had 7 candles that supposedly burned the whole time when you go into the history, but it's not in the Bible. So we don't, say it's scripture, but that's the legend tied to this holy day, is that they lit the candle up after they rededicated the temple. They lit that menorah with 7 candles, and it burned the whole time, and the candles never burnt out. That was the supposed legend. You can look that up, but it's not here in the scripture. So here it tells you they lighted the candlestick, all right, that they might give light to the temple. Furthermore, they set loaves upon the table. So they rededicated the temple. Okay. Now on the 5th and 20th day in the 9th month, which is of the month of Casalu, which is the same time they attacked the temple earlier in Maccabees, as we told you. We read it's the same day that they attacked it, is the same day it was rededicated. All right. They rose up in the morning and offered offerings according to the law. All right. Look at what the time that the day of the heathen profaned it. Look at what time and what day the heathen profaned it. It's the same day. Years later, even in that it was dedicated with songs and cisterns and harps and cymbals, and the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising the God of heaven, who had given them good success. Okay. So they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days and offered both offerings and with gladness. All right, and offered burnt offering was gladness, and sacrificed the sacrifices of deliverance and praise. Which we're gonna do that when we get up in the true temple in those chariots. We're gonna be praising the Lord for victory, man. You know, it says, and they decked the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold. Okay, so this is why we were able to have a Hebrew Israelite culture of the Jews at the time Yahushua was born, because of the faithfulness of these men. Okay, because remember, the northern kingdom was all the way over in the Americas doing what they do, but Judah, as you read in the book of Hosea, because remember, none of the kings of the northern kingdom did right. It's just true. Okay. But of the kings of Judah is where, and the descendants eventually, that's where you have the faithful who stuck to the traditions, to where we can even have what we have today. So call Halal Yahbashim Yashar says, Hosea 11:12, Ephraim compasseth me about with lies, and the house of Israel with deceit, but Judah yet ruleth with God and is faithful with the saints. Okay, and we're witnessing a part of that here. Okay, Judah and his brethren, okay, with the whole congregation of Israel, ordained the days of dedication upon the altar, that it should be kept in their season from year to year by the space of 8 days, from the 5th and 20th day of the month of Caselu, with mirth and gladness. So the Feast of Hanukkah is 8 days of mirth and gladness, gift giving, you know, and you do it to the best of your ability. You know, you can light the menorah. All right. You know, and it's 8 days of partying, to mirth. Right. So we have holy days that deal with mirth. All right. And at that time, they built it up Mount Zion with high walls and strong towers round about, lest the Gentiles should come and tread it down. So Jerusalem was fortified. All right. And they set up there a garrison to keep it, to be fortified, and fortified Bethsura to preserve it. All right. That the people might have a defense against Idumea. All right. So victory over the Edomites, defense against Idumea, is what this holy day is tied to. You see? So this is a holy day amongst others that we have to remember victory over our enemies. Okay. And again, it's a holy day. Let's get the book of Sirach 33:7. It says, why does one day excel another, when as all the light of every day of the year is of the sun? It says, by the knowledge of the Lord they were distinguished, and he altered seasons and feast. All right, by the moon, right? Some hath he made high days and hallowed them. Hallowed means set apart, holy, holy day, holiday. All right, on the left hand, Halloween is a holy day, a holiday. On the right hand, Hanukkah, the Feast of Tabernacles, the Passover, Purim. Okay, these are holy days on the right hand side. It's hallowed for us. All right, and some have he made ordinary days. You have ordinary days and you have exalted high holy days. You see? And we're reading about one in which the Lord defended us against who? The Idumeans, the Edomites, the Greeks, who were polluting the temple. Okay, and Yahushua himself, to end this off, Yahushua himself in John 10:22 was at the Feast of Dedication, because you have the likes of Vocab, all right, the Protestant church, who are against the Apocrypha, right? Though John, what's this dude name? John Calvin, he agreed. He said the Apocrypha was good. He liked the Apocrypha, all right? But you had this, you know, split between the Protestants and the Catholics. The Catholics, you know, kept the Apocrypha. The Protestants, look, the Apocrypha is the word of the Lord. Because right here, verse 22 in John 10, and it was at Jerusalem, the Feast of Dedication, and it was winter. Let's read this in the NLT. Okay. It says, now it was winter, and Yahushua was in Jerusalem at the time of Hanukkah, the festival of dedication. So Yahushua was there. Now, if Yahushua didn't want us to celebrate this day and he was against it, we would know. He would have said in this conversation, as he went back and forth and cut the scribes and Pharisees, he cut the wicked scribes and Pharisees. at Hanukkah, right? But anyway, he would have let us know. It would have been right in here that, look, this day ain't cool. You can't celebrate it. Why are y'all here? But no, he's there in Jerusalem at the party. Yahushua is at the party. He's in the dough. He chilling at the Feast of Dedication. Okay? Let's look up the Feast of Dedication. Let's see if it lines up with what we just read, right?
Strong's G 1456. Ekainia.
Which is really Enoch or Hanukkah. Dedication, in particular the annual feast, all right, which was added in the spirit, celebrated 8 days beginning in the 25th month of Caselu, middle of our December. All right, but remember the calendar is off and ain't no such thing as December. All right, right now it's here as we in November, but it's in the winter. It's when it's cold. So there you go. Instituted by Judas Maccabees 164 BC in memory of cleansing the temple from the pollution of Antiochus Epiphanes in defense against the Edomites. Okay, renewal of religious services, and that's what's happening amongst the elect. We have renewed the dedication of the temple, okay, through what's being built in the form of the spiritual temple. So Yahushua was at this holy day, which dealt with us having a defense and defeating our enemies through the Spirit of the Lord, man. Okay, so let's end it off here in Sirach 25:7. It says, there be 9 things which I have judged in mine heart to be happy, and the 10th will I utter with my tongue, a man that have joy of his children, and he that liveth to see the fall of his enemy. And in this time, we're going to see the fall of Esau, Edom, in the form of this beast system that has been formed, which has brought back the legacy of that Greco-Roman lifestyle and mindset into the earth through, all right, who rules Babylon the Great, the NATO, and the EU. So I just wanted to get that, all right, as the scriptures say. Also, let's get this. All right. 1 Corinthians, the 10th, 2 Corinthians, the 10th chapter, okay? 10:3, for though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh, because eventually Yahushua came on the scene, and his blood is what covers us. He is our defense. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, okay? So we're not here to push and promote victory by the sword in a carnal sense. The sword is the word. All right, now if you have a registered weapon on your own, that is your business, okay? But it has nothing to do with the ministry, okay? And it's going to have anything to do with the Lord getting us to victory, okay? For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, okay? Now, if you happen to, be in a situation where, you use a physical weapon to get out of something and the Lord's with it, that's that, all right? But that's not how we're going to get delivered from this situation, okay? Victory cometh not by arms, okay? Not by the sword, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. See, our victory comes through the testimony which we have under the blood of Yahushua, casting down imaginations and everything that exalted itself against the knowledge of God, which has the heathen in an uproar. They're scared. They're retreating. They're trying to figure out how to come at us, what to do. The same thing, but it's in a spiritual sense, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Yahushua HaMashiach, which that's what this is going to lead to. Every knee is eventually going to bow. So I wanted to deal with that. Hopefully y'all edified on to the next. Shalom.